The question wealth cannot answer. In the beginning, we believed money could solve our problems. Then, we learned that money is psychology. Later, we discovered that wealth rests upon invisible foundations. And then, we uncovered the hidden forces that sustain it. But tonight, we arrive at a question more difficult than all the others. A question money cannot answer for you. A question every fortune eventually encounters. How much is enough? It sounds simple, yet history suggests it may be one of the hardest questions a human being can face. Because wealth has a strange property. The closer you get to it, the further away satisfaction sometimes becomes. For many people, the pursuit of money ends, but the pursuit of more never does. Tonight, we are not discussing how wealth is created. We are discussing why it so often fails to create peace. The moving finish line. Imagine running a race. You train, you sacrifice, you struggle, you finally reach the finish line. And then someone quietly moves it another mile away. That is how many financial lives unfold. At first, the goal is survival, then comfort, then security, then freedom, then status, then influence, then significance. The destination keeps changing, not because circumstances change, but because human adaptation is relentless. What once felt extraordinary becomes normal. What once felt luxurious becomes expected. What once felt sufficient becomes inadequate. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Life calls it getting used to things. The first million feels unimaginable. The second feels necessary. The first success feels miraculous. The next becomes the minimum standard. This is why wealth alone rarely produces contentment. The mind adjusts faster than the bank account. And if your definition of enough keeps moving, you may spend your entire life arriving nowhere. Comparison, the invisible tax. There is a tax more expensive than inflation, more dangerous than market crashes, and almost nobody notices they are paying it. Comparison. For most of history, people compared themselves to neighbors. Today, they compare themselves to the entire world. Every day, every hour, every minute. You see the vacations, the promotions, the houses, the businesses, the lifestyles. But comparison contains a hidden distortion. You compare your entire reality to someone else's highlight reel. And no one wins that game. The tragedy is not financial. It is psychological. Because comparison converts abundance into scarcity. It transforms gratitude into dissatisfaction. And it convinces people they are falling behind, when in reality, they may already have more than enough. Wealth measured against others is infinite. There will always be someone richer, someone younger, someone faster, someone luckier. The race has no finish line. The only way to win is to stop running it. The burden of ownership from 10:15 to 14 minutes. People think ownership creates freedom. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it creates obligations. Every possession demands something: maintenance, attention, protection, insurance, responsibility. A larger house requires more care. A larger company requires more management. A larger fortune requires more decisions. The paradox is subtle. The things we own often begin owning us. Not immediately, gradually, one commitment at a time, until we discover that success has become a schedule we cannot escape. This does not mean possessions are bad. It means every acquisition carries an invisible cost. The mature question is not, what can I afford to buy? The mature question is, what am I willing to maintain? Because every asset consumes a portion of your life, and life is the one resource that cannot be replenished. The myth of arrival. Many people live as though happiness exists somewhere in the future. After the promotion, after the investment succeeds, after the business grows, after retirement, after one more milestone. Life becomes a waiting room. The problem is not ambition. The problem is postponement. Because the future has an unusual habit. It keeps arriving. And when it does, it quickly becomes the present. Then another future appears, and another, and another. The horizon retreats forever. Some people spend decades preparing to live, only to discover they never truly started. The wealthiest individuals are often not those who accumulated the most, but those who learned how to experience the present without sacrificing the future. A balance few people ever master. The economics of time. Every financial decision is secretly a time decision. Money can be earned again. Time cannot. A lost investment may recover. A lost decade never does. This is why some opportunities are far more expensive than they appear. Not because they cost money, because they cost years. Years spent doing work that drains you. Years spent chasing goals you do not truly value. Years spent accumulating things you do not actually need. The greatest luxury is not wealth. It is control over your time. To wake up and choose. To work because you want to. To rest without guilt. To spend a day exactly as you believe it should be spent. This is the freedom money was always supposed to purchase. Yet many people sacrifice it in pursuit of more money. The tool becomes the master, and the purpose becomes forgotten. The danger of endless growth. In nature, nothing grows forever. Trees stop growing. Cities stabilize. organisms mature. Yet humans often expect their finances to expand endlessly. More revenue, more investments, more properties, more achievements, more recognition. Growth is powerful. But growth without purpose becomes addiction. The challenge is not building wealth. The challenge is knowing when additional wealth stops improving life. At some point, the pursuit itself becomes the destination. And many people discover too late that they have optimized their finances while neglecting their existence. The question is not whether growth is good. The question is, what is growth for? If you cannot answer that question, the pursuit may consume you. Defining enough. Every philosophy of wealth eventually arrives here. Not at markets, not at investments, not at income, at enough. Enough is not a number. It is a decision. Two people can possess identical fortunes. One feels rich, the other feels deprived. The difference is rarely mathematical. It is psychological. Enough begins the moment desire stops controlling direction. Enough begins when comparison loses power. Enough begins when freedom becomes more valuable than status. Enough begins when your life no longer requires constant expansion to feel meaningful. And perhaps that is the deepest secret in all of finance. The purpose of wealth was never to create endless wanting. It was to create the ability to choose. The quiet wealth. In the first chapter, we learned that money is psychology. In the second, we discovered the architecture beneath wealth. In the third, we explored the hidden forces that sustain it. And tonight, we confronted the question wealth itself cannot answer. How much is enough? The answer will never come from markets, or economists, or investors, or algorithms. It can only come from you. Because wealth is not measured by what you possess. It is measured by what you no longer need. The candle on the desk burns lower still. The coin remains where it has always been, unchanged, silent, waiting. And perhaps that is fitting, because the greatest financial lesson is not how to accumulate more. It is knowing when more is no longer necessary. Thank you for listening to The Psychology of Money, Part 4, The Price of Enough. Until next time, stay grateful, stay aware, and remember, a person who knows what is enough is already wealthier than many who possess